What's up guys, Chris Barakat here, back in the Human Performance Lab to help you get a better understanding on how to maximize your training progress. Last week, we covered how to target the lower pecs more efficiently, and today I want to focus on targeting your upper chest. There are a lot of misconceptions when it comes to chest training, and some people believe that targeting the upper chest is basically impossible. Well, the truth of the matter is the upper chest can be emphasized with specific exercises based on its functional anatomy. And although it can't be purely isolated, it is neurologically innervated by different regions of your spinal cord and brain. So let's take a look at the chest anatomy and then dive into some exercises that will give you the best bang for your buck when it comes to your time and efforts in the gym. The pectoralis major muscle of your chest is made up of three primary regions: the costal head, which we covered in depth last week, the sternal head, and the clavicular head, more commonly called the upper chest. As you can see, the muscle fibers of the clavicular head have a different line of pull and present with an oblique angle. Because of this, its primary function is to flex the shoulder joint. If you're sitting or standing right now, take your left hand and place it right underneath your right collarbone. Then raise your right arm straight up and you will feel the clavicular head contract and shorten. Now, without any load in your arm, keeping your left hand on the muscle, squeeze your upper chest as hard as possible. You're now one step closer to having a better mind-muscle connection and understanding what your upper chest is responsible for. Interestingly, the clavicular head can vary quite a bit from person to person. For some, it makes up a large portion of their entire pec major muscle, and targeting it really enhances their total chest size. For others, it's a relatively smaller head, and although they should intentionally target it, they may improve their overall chest aesthetics to a larger degree by bringing up their sternal and costal regions. Now, before I go into the exercises, I do need to mention another important variable that is often overlooked. That variable is each individual's thoracic rib cage structure and the angle of their sternum. Human cadaveric research has shown that the sternal angle was found to range from 149 degrees to 177 degrees, with an average of 163 degrees in men and 165 degrees in women. That 28-degree variance, let's just call it 30 degrees, can play a major role in a person's pressing strength by significantly influencing their torque generating capability. This is a large reason why powerlifters intentionally arch their backs and fill up their rib cage with as much air as possible when they're benching. This extension at their thoracic spine increases their sternal angle, giving them a mechanical advantage and increases their strength. To give a clear visual, let's take a quick look at my good friend Jeff Nippard's physique and frame. Jeff has that barrel chest and a very thick rib cage. He also happens to have an extremely impressive bench press and is successful in both competitive powerlifting and natural bodybuilding. When you look at throwback footage of our physiques side by side, the structural differences are as clear as night and day. And although it's not generally thought about in this way, the way our mechanics look when executing the same exercises are just as apparent. This is why an exercise that is optimal for him is likely not optimal for me, and vice versa. I'm going to leave a link in the description box below with a video by Tom Purvis from Resistance Training Specialist that explains the impact and importance of the sternal angle and thoracic structure in further detail. When it comes to building an upper chest, the first exercise that most people suggest is any variation of an incline bench press. I totally support this suggestion, and so does the science. However, something that science hasn't investigated to date is how an individual's skeletal structure and frame would impact the incline chest press effectiveness from person to person. More specifically, which angle of incline, 15 degrees, 30 degrees, 45 degrees, or even 60 degrees, would be best for different individuals. Remember, sternal angles can vary within a 30-degree range, so a 30-degree difference in incline may be appropriate between two individuals. First and foremost, the incline bench alters the angle of your torso, and this naturally changes the angle at which you're pressing. If you look at the incline bench press, your upper arm or glenohumeral joint is now moving through a combination of shoulder flexion and horizontal abduction. You're pressing up and across your body. This movement nicely aligns with the fibers and line of pull of your upper chest. Another caveat to understand here is that your setup, form, and intention will also play a big role on what region of the chest is under more mechanical tension from the weight you're lifting, and which region of the muscle is in the most efficient position to contract and shorten through the concentric phase of the lift. For example, if you take a closer grip on a flat bench, this is going to naturally change the plane and angle at which your upper arm is traveling during the press of the movement. This significantly impacts the degree at which certain muscle groups and specific muscle regions are experiencing mechanical tension from the load being lifted and muscle activation patterns. This was demonstrated by Barnett and colleagues as taking a narrow grip led to less chest activation on the flat and incline press, while leading to more anterior delt activation on the flat press. When it comes to the incline bench press, I suggest you perform whichever variation you feel the most. This means experimenting with different bench press angles and can also vary from a barbell, dumbbell, Smith machine, or even incline chest press machine. The dumbbell variation has a few advantages because of its versatility and the fact that each individual can safely manipulate their form until they find the sweet spot where they feel the best mind-muscle connection and contraction of their upper chest. The dumbbell variation also allows you to work through the largest range of motion, which can increase the stress and strain you create on the upper chest by having a deeper stretch at the bottom of the range. To no surprise, the scientific data has shown that the incline bench press is superior at targeting the upper chest compared to the flat press. However, you will make progress in both the sternal head and clavicular head with both variations. When it comes to incline press variations, I personally train them through a pretty large rep range. On days I'm trying to maximize mechanical tension, I perform them with heavier loads with a rep goal between 6 and 8. And on other training days where I'm more focused on metabolic stress and getting a more significant pump, I perform these at higher reps with lighter loads, aiming for 15 plus reps. Stay tuned for more information on how I'm currently programming my training to maximize muscle hypertrophy. Another exercise that targets the upper chest really well is the low to high chest fly. This can be done with cables, resistance bands, or dumbbells. Because everyone's skeletal structure and muscle shape is a bit different due to genetics, the form and execution of this exercise is going to vary a bit from person to person and something you really need to focus on feeling internally. Think about taking the insertion of your chest, which is at the upper arm, and getting it closer to the origin of your upper chest, which is your clavicle and your collarbone, as you perform the concentric to maximize its shortening contraction. On the contrary, as you're performing the negative, think about getting the deepest stretch possible and creating as much tension as possible in the clavicular head. Performing this movement with a cable machine or resistance bands has a superior strength curve profile compared to the dumbbell, as you're challenged throughout the entire reps range of motion. However, I really like the dumbbell variation as it overloads the lengthened portion of the range when the clavicular head is under a deep stretch. This can create a lot of muscle damage, which has been a proposed mechanism of muscle hypertrophy. There are many ways to organize your chest training and different approaches you can take to manipulate your training volume, frequency, and intensity. We'll save those specifics for another video in the future, but I highly recommend you include these exercises we covered today. Ensuring you're performing and progressing on some form of incline pressing movement and a low to high fly variation within your training program is an evidence-based approach to ensure you're going to make gains on your upper chest development. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Also, be sure to check out my last video on some key tips to maximize your lower chest development if you haven't already. Stay tuned for more content, as next week I'll continue this chest training series and discuss whether or not the flat barbell bench press is a necessary staple or an optional exercise to maximize your chest development. If you have any questions or suggestions on content to make in the near future, drop a comment below and I'll do my best to get those questions answered. Thanks, guys.